Well, hello there and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. By God, I, of course, am MrWarrenHayes, by God, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this program tonight. That we record live here on a Thursday, July 22nd, 2021, mind you, right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. I'm really happy you guys are here. I'm happy you guys are joining me live here as we record this on the internet with all the, all the hesitations and the stuttering and the warts that come along with watching MrWarrenHayes live. I appreciate it. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. When I say we, when I'm thanking people, it's not an imaginary group of people. I'm actually imagining a real group of people here tonight who are joining us for the proceedings. Oh, right here. Look, live chat. That's what happens every Thursday. We've got Kelly Tonjes who's here. Good to see you. Robert Larry as well. Nice to see you, Robert. Flowman is in the house. Hello, Flowman. Mr. Fritz is here too. Good to see you. Fifth generation Carney Joseph with it's already starting. Fifth generation Carney Joseph with it. Good to see you, Carney Joseph. Nice to see you. Evan Wright is here. Hello, Evan. Big T's here too. We've got Bumpy here as well. My God, yes, we are live, but super live. And people often ask me, so Warren, what is the difference between live and super live? And I'm like, you got to be there to know it. You have to be there to understand. It's just as simple as that. So if you're here watching live, then you understand what the super live part is. Thank you everyone for being here. And if you're not watching live right now, or even if you're not watching live right now, let me get my act straight here. If you are watching live, thank you for being here. If you're not watching live, thank you for watching regardless. I appreciate it. And hey, do consider giving the video a little thumbs up here on youtube.com. That stuff helps out a ton. And I'm not even kidding. It helps out a bajillion times. I really, really appreciate it. So thank you very much for doing that. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, thank you as well. I appreciate your listenership over there as well. So thank you so much for listening, and show some love there as well. Reviews are always appreciated. Like, subscriptions, whatever, that kind of stuff is fantastic. Tim Traver is here too. Nice to see you, Tim. It's always good to see you, Tim. A good friend of the show. Been around for pretty much from the start, Tim, right? You've been here for a while, man. Business as usual. Don't forget to head on over to belltobells.com, your women's wrestling wire, over at belltobells.com, BELLTOBELLES.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got so many great interviews up there. Tons of great interviews. Scoopsies for you. I've got an interview in the can with indie superstar Jordan Blade, who just recently became the Paradigm Pro Wrestling super middleweight champion. Got into that tournament, came out on top, and I had the chance to speak with her again. It's not the first time we chat, and she's delightful. So that interview should be up tomorrow. So if you don't want to miss it, subscribe to the Bell to Bells channel. And if you're not subscribed to the MrWarrenHayes channel, why don't you do that? At the same time, it's a great way to show some support. If you're watching this as a VOD as well, leave a comment below. We're looking for 20 comments on the next 20 videos. Our streak keeps going. We're up to 14. We're getting ever so closer, clawing ever so closer to the end here. And to the end of this goal. And what am I doing for the 20 streak goal? I'm going to cook some stuff from the WWE cookbook called what's it called? Do you smell what the WWF is cooking? Whatever. The one that had JR, The Rock, and Steve Austin on it. That one. I'm gonna be cooking some stuff from there as a reward for hitting that goal. So leave a comment if you can when you get an opportunity. That's a great way to show some support. Become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. That's also a very direct way of showing some support. And then you can join us for the post stream, which I do after the Mr. Warren Hayes Show proper. And tonight, guess what we're going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about Phil and Brian. That's who we're going to be talking about. That's exactly who we're going to be talking about. Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. That's what we're going to be chatting about tonight over on the post stream. So you can jump right in. All you have to do is become a member. It's really that simple. So why don't you go ahead and do that? And so yeah. And of course, you can also leave a super chat, and I will read your question or comment on the air. And we already have Anakin JMT who left us a super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat, Anakin. He says, first thing you talk about better be the trial. Yes, absolutely. And wow, okay. Tim Traver just left us a very, very generous super chat. Tim, thank you so much. I'm a little taken aback. I'm not gonna lie. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Tim says, I'm listening to you on my phone. My old phone crapped the bed. So I'm assuming you have a new phone, which is good. Good job on getting new phone. New phones are fun. But I'm floored, man. Thank you so much. Such an extremely generous super chat. Thank you very much. JK Schwal left us a super chat. Thank you very much. JK, I appreciate it, and welcome also to the stream. He says, care to comment on Impact taking their counter programming to new levels by going Switchblade promo versus the Mr. Warren Hayes Show? Look, they know. They get it, right? Here's the thing. They know, right, that I start at 9 and 9 o'clock is their second hour. They know this. You know, Josh Matthews knows this. He's fully aware. I'm sure he's the weasel behind this shit. And on top of it, this is the insult to injury. If you're longtime listeners of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, you guys know that I am a big Jay White fan, huge Jay White fan. And if they're programming Jay White as my show starts, how do you think that makes me feel? I'm like poor Jay being put in this position where he has to counter-program moi, right? Because he knows what I feel about him. He gets the letters and the unsolicited gifts to his. By the way, Jay, you're gonna have to upgrade your PO box. They've started returning stuff because it says it's full. So. Oh yeah. Thank you for the super chat very much, J.K. Schwal, and Tim with another super chat. Tim, you don't have to super chat anymore, pal. But I appreciate it. Since it's a new phone, I look out for my buddy. Good job, man. You're good. I mean, thank you. But we're good. Streak Saver is here as well. He's the tweener of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I'm not missing any super chats here. Okay, cool. All right, let's get to it, folks. God damn, we've got a lot to cover this week. Weekly wrestling inspection begins now. All right, so before we begin, I hope I'm not busy. Thank you everyone for being here. Nice lively crowd tonight. That's cool. Let's just go right ahead. Let's start making magic here. We're gonna start. Before I get into anything else, and maybe it's not the biggest news of the week, but I am going to talk about the trial of Faye Jackson, just to give you some context in case you're not quite sure what the hell I'm talking about, because it's not a real trial. Faye Jackson, beloved independent wrestler. She's been on the indie circuit for quite a few years. A stalwart, a leader, a lovely human being. I've had the chance to speak with her in the past. She's a lovely, lovely person. Inspirational in some some would say, one of these mentor figures out there on the independent circuit. She retired not just a couple of months ago, to shock and dismay. But during Money in the Bank this Sunday, she put out a tweet saying that she was going to post a nude if Big E wins the Money in the Bank briefcase. That is how certain she is that Big E was not going to win. Well, as we all know, Big E did end up winning the Money in the Bank briefcase. So people, I even tweeted out because I saw it going. I was like, "Oops, Faye's in trouble now." And she ended up tweeting a palette of makeup that was then the name, like flesh tones, different colors of different flesh tone colors, called nude, and that riled up a whole section of the timeline, and she got called out on it, and things snowballed, and she was taken to Twitter court. She was summoned to Twitter court, which was presided by Judge Tasha Steeles. And she was being prosecuted by Sugar Dunkerton. Sugar Dunkerton. Maybe some of you know him better under the moniker of Pineapple Pete from that stint he had in AEW. Sugar Dunkerton was the prosecutor, and her defense attorney was one big swole Maxine Ariel Monroe, whatever you want to call her. But Big Swole was there. You had AJ Gray acting as the bailiff. And they opened up a Twitter space. This happened all last night. They opened up a Twitter space and they called witnesses, and they brought, Dunkerton presented the case as to why, he felt that she had to provide the nude because this was very misleading, and Swole put up the defense. And ultimately, Faye Jackson was proven to be not guilty because she did say, "I will post a nude," and she never did say, "I will post one of my nudes." But if you follow Faye and you followed her career, you know that there was kind of like there was a magic. There's a little flavor to what she does. Let's put it that way. So people, I think, took for granted that it was going to be one of her nudes, but it was very aptly worded, and I think she was unjustly tried here. I'm not gonna lie. It was a fun time, and at some point, I want to say, oh, by the way, Ryan Smith and Metal Michael, good to see you guys. Welcome. And the world-renowned historian. So what was awesome here is that is that at some point there was like over 1,200 people listening to this on Twitter, on Twitter Spaces. It was phenomenal. They had a hashtag going that trended. I think it ended up trending #1 in the United States. It was a big thing. It was silly, goofy fun where you had this is my takeaway here. Here's my takeaway. What happened here was an event created by, Black Wrestling Twitter, if you for lack of a better way to describe it, right? Who basically just came together to give themselves a moment where they were just going to sit around and roast each other, just be goofy, and we were all invited to sit in on it. And that was awesome. And it was such a fun thing to see, because you could see just how deep these connections are within the Black wrestling community, Twitter or not. You had a whole bunch of people who were there, who were there and were even invited to speak, who don't necessarily work with these people on a regular basis, or look, Swole is in AEW. She's a contracted wrestler who works on a national cable television show. And she was there. She was playing a prominent part. You had PB Smooth, who was there as well, who he was called into court as a witness. And And in the audience, like when I joined, there was like D'Lo Brown was there and Xavier Woods. And that's awesome. And later on, I think, because the space has crashed a couple of times, later on, I saw Drake Maverick who was there. There was all sorts of people. And I know I'm forgetting folks, but there was all sorts of people. Everyone was just sitting around listening to this. Yes, it was wild. It was unscripted. They didn't have a script to follow all of this. It was something that they did to sort of bind the community together, and we were all invited to join in. I thought it was a fantastic time. I thought it was really cool. And so my main takeaway from that is how closely knit that community is to do something so spontaneous and fun on top of that. It was fun. And then the great thing was today, when I saw when I started looking at the aftermath and people tweeting out, this is where you started to see the miserable bastards again. You know when things are fun, and then you have people go, "Oh, is this? Oh, they're not even doing this for charity. Oh, wait, what's this all about? I don't understand what's happening. This is the most boring shit I ever seen." Then you're like, all right. Pointless. Why are they doing this? And it's like, okay. There's probably a bunch of reasons why you're saying this, and I'm not going to speculate, but you can see who the miserable people then are after these types of situations. Me just helps me prune. It helps me prune my timeline a little better. And then I know what to do. There are quite a few of them out there. But I thought it was delightful. I thought it was great. All right, let's just start. We'll go ahead. Like, I don't know how much I'm going to be talking about matches per se tonight, because I feel like there's a lot of, we'll see how things go. But there's too many events. Like we're gonna go hard straight off the bat. I'm not saving this for any main event. If you were here early for the show, good on you. CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. This is what we're gonna start talking about out the gate. And I see you guys in chat here right now, guys and gals. You're already talking up a storm about it. Let's keep talking about it. Let me know your thoughts about this, because I'm convinced you have some. Let's start with Daniel Bryan. I think it was on Monday. It was PW Insider ran a report, rumors, right? Saying that WWE and Daniel Bryan had stopped talking to each other, right? They had, and it was just something that they dropped like that, and it's the kind of thing that I listen to and I'm like, yeah, okay. Sure. Always, like I always say, folks, right? Like, why is this stuff being leaked? But we'll get to that in a little bit. Look, apparently they stopped talking. Apparently there's no merch plans for Daniel Bryan. And I'm like, the merch. Look, the merch signal in wrestling. Okay, I think it's a very 50-50 proposition. Yeah, again, if you ask your boy. Sometimes it's a good indicator, sometimes it's not. On Monday, WWE released some new merch for Braun Strowman. Someone told me, oh, well, it's not new. They had released it before. Well, they brought it back because it was on WWE Shop with the new label on it. So, I wouldn't put too much stock in that just yet. But, so apparently they stopped talking. Yesterday is the bombshell, right? Is the thing that happens. We've got our boy Cassidy Haynes over on bodyslam.net, who says, as an exclusive, right? This is exclusive news on their end, that Daniel Bryan has signed 100% with AEW. He says they're 100% locked in and has already signed a contract with AEW. Which is wild. Now, there's a lot of people who are being very tentative about this because Cassidy's a fantastic dude. Body slam can be a little hit or miss. They don't have. Yeah, I'm definitely not saying that they're garbage and they make shit up. Far from it. But they do have let's say maybe a 60-40. I don't know. We'd have to count. I'd have to do an official count. I don't know. Maybe they're batting a 350. I don't know. But this is what they say. And on top of that, he even got more. More news in that regard. In regards to to how AEW wants to use Daniel Bryan. He even had news on their plans, right? Well, first of all, apparently, and again, this is in the news here. Apparently, Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, I don't know. I kind of feel until he actually switches, my go-to will still be Daniel Bryan. Because I'm still holding out some skepticism, just healthy skepticism. It says Daniel Bryan wants to work less dates for comparable money. Now I don't know if he means comparable money to what he used to make in WWE, probably, or to someone else on the roster. He wanted the ability to work in Japan and wants to have creative input on his character. You know what it smells like? To me, it smells like the Mox deal. I'm pretty sure that's the kind of deal that John Moxley has, right? Heavy J, good to see you. And yeah, guys and gals, dream in the chat. The dream matches. Let them pour. And as far as the reported alleged plans that they have for Daniel Bryan, the tentative plans, the plan is for Daniel Bryan to make his AEW debut on September 22nd, which would be at the Arthur Ashe Stadium show, right? The plan is to hold off debuting Daniel Bryan until after all their plans for All Out are wrapped up, which honestly is extremely reassuring because that means that they've planned up until All Out, which as a wrestling promotion you should be doing, and they bring him after the pay-per-view. So that's really interesting. I mean, look, the skeptic. I think it's okay to have a level of skepticism in regards to Daniel Bryan actually leaving WWE, because those of us who have a memory, which is most of us, but those of us who remember will remember Daniel Bryan a couple of years ago, kind of doing the same thing that he did here, going around doing the rounds, the interview rounds, saying, I want to wrestle Jushin Thunder Liger one more time. I want, like, well, motherfucker, just stop wrestling for WWE and go do it, kind of thing. And he comes back and he does the same round again. So, a bunch of us are like, yeah, it's fun to dream, isn't it, Daniel? But it's up to you to make this a reality. Now, is this a reality? Are we at the position now? Are we at the moment where Daniel Bryan has indeed packed it in and is like, nah, I'm good, Vince. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll see you later. My point is that I think the skepticism is healthy. I think skepticism is healthy in general. Not just in this situation. I think it's good to have to be leery and to not let yourself be suckered in just because people are saying stuff that you want to hear, kind of thing. I think it's fine. But it feels real. It feels real. And, look, I'm pretty sure, because I had these discussions with some folks, it's like, in regards to the source, right? Because I've seen the comments. I've seen people say, oh, well, I'll wait till Sean Ross Sapp or Dave Meltzer report it, then I'll believe it. Sure. And again, fair, because these guys have proven track records, right? That's absolutely cool. I kind of feel like Cassidy Haynes would not be putting out this information unless he was pretty goddamn sure about it. Because if this flops, if this is proven to be untrue, he's burned, and he's going to be, it'll go either way for him. If it's true, he is going to be the guy who broke the Daniel Bryan story, the Daniel Bryan to AEW story, until the end of time, right? Until the absolute, but the opposite is true. If it's proven to be false, he's going to be the guy who led everyone on. He's going to be the liar. He's going to be the guy who tried to make us believe that Daniel Bryan was, like, his neck is on the line here. And this is not, some second-rate dirt sheet guy. Cassidy does good work, and I'm pretty sure that he wants this to, he wouldn't be putting this forward unless he felt comfortable about it. So, cross our fingers. I'm excited at this prospect. I've talked about this before. Daniel Bryan going anywhere else? Forbidden doors broken down? Are you shitting me? I think the one thing that would make this beautiful, parfait absolutely spectacular and delicious would be to have Daniel Bryan go for one more run in Ring of Honor, because he's one of the OGs. He's one of the guys who made Ring of Honor. I know there's less money there, so on and so forth. I get that. But still, my God. And I think that the big story out of all of this is going to be WWE was not able to keep him despite the gobs of money that they probably threw at him. And that's going to be telling. That's going to be something else. Now, CM Punk. This time, we are going to talk about Fightful. They reported that CM Punk is in talks to return to wrestling. We hear this every year, right? We hear this every year. It's like Alberto Del Rio saying that he's talking with Triple H. We hear this every year. But the fact that Fightful is reporting it does indeed give it some credence, some credibility. Plus, Phil didn't go on Twitter to shut it down, which is something he's done numerous times in the past. So, Punk is in talks to return after wrestling his last match in 2014 outside of a masked appearance in 2019. He has not been actively wrestling. He's been on the sidelines. He's even said that he's, doesn't want to do it again, whatever, and so on and so forth. But Fightful is reporting that it seems probable. He's been told by higher-ups, they've been told, by higher-ups, that he won't be going back to WWE. So AEW seems more and more likely. Again, I mean, this is kind of like Daniel Bryan doing the circuit and saying, I'm done. It's kind of the same thing. And I can appreciate anyone going, I don't believe this because we've been here before. I absolutely behind that thought process. But there's something about this that feels more real. There's something that feels concrete. And again, coming from a source that wouldn't be putting it out there if they didn't have something solid to work off of, right? And I was talking about this when I did a special stream about it on Tuesday afternoon. I hopped on the stream. I was like, man, I gotta get the views. But it was fun. We chatted about it for an hour in the chat and everything. But as I was saying there, this is what I'm thinking. I'm seeing CM Punk. If I'm CM Punk, I'll put myself in his shoes. If I'm CM Punk and I'm looking at Sting and I'm looking at Christian Cage heading over to AEW to close out their career on their terms, right? To protect, preserve, add a layer to their legacy. Sort of wrap everything up and be like, you know what? This is how we wanted it. This is how we wanted it. This is how we wanted things to end. As opposed to the whims of Vince McMahon. He's 42 years old. Excuse me. Not an old man by any stretch of the imagination. Bobby Lashley is 46. He's not over the hill by any stretch of the imagination. But I think he's taken a moment to look back at his history and look at his legacy and be like, you know what? This is a moment for me. I think this is a good moment for me, a good opportunity to sort of close things out on a positive note. Because even if he were to end his like on top of, he would, if he were really to say, I am never going back into wrestling again, what are people going to remember in regards to the end of his career? He's going to be one of the biggest what ifs in wrestling. That's all people are going to be talking about. It's like, what if CM Punk had returned? What if CM Punk had done this and this and that? What if he had fought so and so forth? Plus, he's going to be the guy who tried to transition to MMA and never won a match. But for real though, like that's his legacy up until this point. So I can appreciate the guy going, you know what? I might have some left in the tank. I don't have to work the ridiculous WWE schedule up and down the roads everywhere. AEW is not running house shows yet. They're just doing tapings. That's a good deal, So I can appreciate him doing that. And I'm pretty sure there's a little bit of Daniel Bryan in that as well. But again, this is something we've talked about in the past in regards to Daniel Bryan. And Daniel Bryan, I think, is a guy who always wanted to, and I think he said it himself, he wants to leave the business in a better state than when he came in. And I think he realizes that there's no way he can accomplish what he wants if he stays with WWE. So it's really exciting news. It's the kind of stuff. It's the kind of stuff that really does remind me of back in the mid 90s when WCW was coming up and kicking WWF's ass, and the talent trades, and WWF guys jumping ship to WCW. Then all of a sudden, then you have guys, the opposite starts happening. It's exciting as a fan in these moments here, because all you have to do is sit back and enjoy it. Just like, gosh, damn, this is exciting. This is so good. It's so much fun to see this stuff. To see this stuff happen before your eyes. And for it to even be in a position for us to, it's great that the business is in a position where this kind of stuff can happen, where these big moves, these big time players can switch around, or at least give us the impression that they can switch around. It's great. It's absolutely great. I love it. Now, the question is, first of all, DGMC, good to see you. Welcome to the chat. And look at that. We have Dan Reed of Eve, Pro Wrestling Eve, who's with us. Pro Wrestling Eve coming back in August. Right? Is it? No, hang on a second. I'm confused. Pro Wrestling Eve is coming back. Wrestle Queendom. No, I think it's in November. Excuse me. Right, Dan? Well, I'm going to give you a plug now because I'm glad you're here. I'm always glad to see you. November 1st. Or am I confused? No, I'm super confused now. Hang on a second. I'm going to pull up the information here because I'm glad Dan is here. And I'm really excited that Friday, August 27. There we go. I'm really excited that Eve is coming back. I'm glad you guys are running shows and we're coming in huge with a big queendom. August 27th. So in a little over a month. Glad to see you back on it. It's fantastic. No, I was completely off. There you go. And did I say 3? I meant 4. I'm so stupid. Yeah. You know, there's evenings like that. Look, I'm not going to try and make excuses for it. I'm just stupid. It's good to see you, Dan. Wrestle Queendom for August 24th. It's going to be streaming live on YouTube. How about that? How's that for a comeback? I'm going to be watching for absolutely sure. DGMC left us a super chat. Thank you very much, DGMC. He says, Punk's driving around the Chicago streets with "There's No Easy Way Out" blasting from the speakers. He's watching the Cubs game on his phone too. Why is that such an easy picture? An easy mental picture for me to have. Right, that. Anakin left us another super chat. Thank you very much, Anakin. I appreciate it. He says, obligatory DGMC is a coward super chat. RJ City rules. RJ City ain't that. He ain't that big. Yeah. He might. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But as I like to close this up with the news here, as I always like to talk about when we chat about, you know, rumors and reports like that, I've been racking my brain trying to figure out why this type of news leaks. Who leaks this out? Because these reports aren't made up, and it's people who contact media people and we're like, hey, I've got something to share with you, kind of thing. You know, that's usually, you know, I'm dumbing it down a little, but that's typically how it goes. But there's a reason why these things are leaked. And especially if it comes from AEW. AEW is a very, very, very tight ship when it comes to wrestling news. Not a lot of... When's the last time you've heard a massive AEW news leak? Like something where you're like, oh, there's been... It doesn't happen very often, and it happens in very extraordinary circumstances. You know, maybe the B. Priestley... the B. Priestley fight with, her name just slipped my mind. Apologies. You know, there's stuff that happens once in a while. There's stuff that happens once in a while where they'll leak. But this is not just like a small occurrence. These are officially big time plays by AEW that are being leaked out into the media. You know? So what was the... Sadie Gibbs, yes, thank you very much. That was B. Priestley and Sadie Gibbs. Thank you, DGMC. So that's the thing right here. That's the issue. It's like, what's the end game here? Like, who did it? Who put this news into the hands of the people here? Because AEW it's such a tight ship. Now, we were talking about this in the Discord, or I don't. Was it the Discord or the live stream? I don't remember. Right now, I'm not trusting my memory for anything. I was calling Wrestle Queendom 3. Look at me go. But we were talking about this. CM Punk, the announcement happens, then conveniently, sort of out of nowhere, AEW opens up some new seating for the Chicago shows. I'm like, that's very interesting, you know? So it's like, you know, and then Daniel Bryan, you know, the rumors for the Arthur Ashe Stadium. Is this, you know, part of the ploy? Is this simply AEW that's like, look, we got to hold on to the headlines. Let's just put some news out there. Everyone's talking about, you know, Goldberg and John Cena. It's like, I mean, it could be. I'm not saying that they did it themselves. I'm questioning who did it. What's the end game here? But the thing here, however this happened, whatever happened here, AEW is in a position now where it's created expectation for itself. You know, there's a difference between when wrestling Twitter creates a rumor about something, then works itself into a shoot, then we get to the event and the rumor doesn't happen, and then they get mad. They can only get mad at themselves because they made this shit up. Where in this circumstance here, AEW, or at least this news has been leaked. This news has been leaked. So now AEW is in a very, very unfortunate position where now people are expecting it. So it either happens and people are happy, but if it doesn't happen, it's not going to be, it'll be very, very interesting to watch how all of this goes. But it's very, very curious. I want to say hello to Kristen Ashley, the first lady of the MrWarrenHayes show. Yeah. Hello, Kristen. Welcome to the chat. But I mean, hey, it's exciting news. Regardless of the way you want to look at it, it's exciting news. Let's talk about Slammiversary 2021 that happened this weekend. I watched the show. What am I talking about? I was able to watch. I watched the show. I'm going to go through things very quickly because there is a lot of stuff I want to talk about, and I thought it was a fairly good pay-per-view. Don't get me wrong, but what's what here. Just some quick thoughts. Havoc and Rosemary defeated Fire and Flava, Kiera Hogan, and Tasha Steelz to become the new Impact Knockouts Tag Team Champions. I thought it was a bit of a surprise, but it turns out that Kiera Hogan was announced that she's leaving Impact Wrestling. So good for her on betting on herself. Like she said it herself in her announcement, she doesn't quite know what she's doing. She doesn't know exactly what's going to happen next, but she's betting on herself. She's going out there. Good for her. Rosemary and Havoc are now your champions. Josh Alexander retained the X Division Championship against Ace Austin, Chris Bay, Petey Williams, Rohit Rahu, and Trey Miguel. My God, he's fantastic. Josh Alexander, you know what? If I'm Impact Professional Wrestling, personally, I'm getting Josh Alexander out of the X Division, and I am pushing him to the moon as the guy who is going to take the Impact title back from Kenny Omega. I think he's the guy. I think he's legit. He looks the part. Impact fans love him. Even people who don't watch Impact like the guy because he goes out onto the indie circuit. He's around. He does this stuff. And he's just amazing. He's just absolutely amazing. Am I taking your booking ideas, Evan? Am I? But I think that's the thing you do. I think that's the best choice. I really do. I don't see anyone else on their roster who looks the part, who can come across as a champion, but then on top of that, who is also someone you can elevate to the main event scene in Impact. I think Josh Alexander's your guy. Plus, what a great match we'd get out of him and Omega. Woo! Brian Myers and Tennille Dashwood lost to Matt Cardona and his mystery tag team partner, who turned out to be, shocker of shockers, Chelsea Green, who is helping her fiance defeat his former best friend and his legit ex-girlfriend. Sure, this was passable. That's all right. W. Morrissey defeated Eddie Edwards. Fantastic. Good. Nice slow burn push for Morrissey going through people on Impact. I think that's great. Eddie Edwards is Eddie Edwards. Then we had a surprise match. We had Madman Fulton and Shera who got squashed in like a minute 30 by Finn Juice. David Finlay, Juice Robinson showed up out of nowhere. Big surprise. That was fun. Wouldn't be done with surprises on this show, but that was very cool. Chris Sabin defeated Moose as well. Good, because fuck Moose. The Good Brothers defeated Violent by Design, represented by Joe Doring and Rhino, and Rich Swann and Willie Mack, and Falaba and his surprise partner, the man formerly known as No Way Jose, now simply known as No Way, came in with the Good Brothers. The Good Brothers are now your Impact Tag Team Champions again. That's completely fine. This was a fun match. Too many people, in my opinion. But I'm gonna say this though: if you're No Way Jose, if No Way Jose couldn't get himself over in WWE with the dancing conga line shtick, why the fuck is he still doing it? Right? Why is he still at this? Change the gimmick. It sunk you in the E. It's not going to give you a huge career resurgence now. I thought that was weird. Deonna Purrazzo and Thunder Rosa had a fun match. A really fun one. Deonna Purrazzo, of course, retains. Thunder Rosa lost. Congratulations to Thunder Rosa, where was officially announced today that she was signed to AEW, as if, in other news, water is wet and Warren Hayes stutters.
Oh, yeah!
Anakin JMT left us a super chat. Thank you very much. He says, add Impact title shot to AEW Eliminator, TK. TK's in the chat right now. I'm sure he'll get that. All set up. And the main event, Kenny Omega retained by defeating Sami Callihan in a no disqualification match, which was great. It was great. It was great. I thought it was a fantastic plunder match. I thought it was a great plunder match. Callihan, this is the best match I've seen Sami Callihan have, bar none. I thought it was tons of fun. It was violent. It got uncomfortable at certain moments, which is what should happen in these types of situations, especially when Sami Callihan is involved. This was great. I thought it was a nice, brutal, messy main event. There was drama throughout. I was like, this is the kind of match where I'm like, there's no way in hell Sami Callihan is winning. But the drama was built so well that the near falls had me believing. I was like, he's going to do it. Ah, shit, of course. And then you sort of hate yourself. You go, of course he's not going to do it, Warren. But then kudos to them for making me believe, right? That's the part. I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a great main event. Kenny retains. And then Jay White shows up with the never open weight title from New Japan. Jay White, current leader of Bullet Club, or at least, he's the one who wears the mantle of authority. Let's put it that way. He comes to the ring and just stands across Kenny Omega, who was not only in Bullet Club, but a leader of Bullet Club, but before Jay White was Bullet Club. When Omega was Bullet Club, Jay White was in Chaos. right? I was thrilled. I mean, don't get me wrong. You have our boy Jay White out there. And then in the meantime, I was watching the Stadium Series show from Warrior Wrestling, which was a great show as well, by the way. I was dual screening it, and I watched some stuff as well the next day. Like that was a good show as well. And in the meantime, they're showing advertisements on IWTV. They're showing advertisements for the Switchblade series, and they're using Jay White's logo. And I'm like, what? And this was before Jay White was announced to show up on Impact. So I'm seeing Warrior Wrestling teasing doing something with Jay White, and I'm like, nah, this can't be real. And then the main event happens, and at the end, Jay White shows up on Impact, and I'm like, my God. And it turns out Jay White is going to be at Warrior Wrestling in August, doing indie dates. It's fantastic. And it just turns out that I'm going to probably be in the United States around that time, so I might be heading to Chicago to go see Jay White. You kidding me? It's fantastic. I love this stuff. And, so anyway, so the story here is that the elite, the Good Brothers, they're surrounding Kenny Omega, and they throw up the Too Sweet, and we don't get to see Jay White do the Too Sweet because everything goes dark. There was a post-match angle, but look, the thing here is that Jay White is in North America. He's forbidden dooring the shit out of the Forbidden Door, and I'm going to catch up with Impact when we're done here. I want to find out what the hell is going on. He's got the Never title with him. Wrestling is exciting. Wrestling is absolutely exciting. How can you not get behind all this cross-pollination? And then Impact announced during that, they did a teaser for Bound for Glory, and they start flashing logos for Impact, AEW, New Japan, Ring of Honor, and AAA. So like, Impact is like this, it's like this ground zero for all this Forbidden Door stuff. Like everything, it's so cool. What a great time to be a fan. And perfect, with everything reopening. It's great stuff. Anyway, Slammiversary, I thought it was a fine show. It was all right. Great main event. And great X Division championship, but per usual, right? I mean, there wasn't Ring of Honor on the teaser? Are you sure? Didn't I see Ring of Honor? I could be mistaken, but I feel like I saw Ring of Honor. I couldn't. But look, they did that announcement. It's fantastic stuff. Vape, good to see you, and welcome to the chat. Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank 2021. Also happened this Sunday. A little of an uneven show. And a little of an uneven show. But let's talk about it. But before, I'm going to read a super chat from Swiss Roll Chris. Good to see you as well. Welcome to the chat. He says, this is wrestling's brightest timeline. Yes. Steve from Going in Raw, he did he took that shot of the if you guys watch Loki, of course, the of the timeline, the sacred timeline branching off, and he put it, he wrote Nick Gage, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and he just put that there. But yeah, this is a very pretty timeline that we're in right now. I think it's the best timeline. I agree. Thank you for the super chat, Chris. I appreciate it. Anakin JMT left us another super chat. Thank you very much once again, Anakin. He says, somewhere Jerry Jarrett is weeping tears of joy at TNA finally hitting it big in wrestling. Or maybe he's weeping tears of, what did I do wrong? Why am I not around anymore? Could be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, all he had to do was buy WCW. I don't know why. But I'm fine. All right, Money in the Bank started off with the pre-show where the Usos defeated the Mysterios to win the tag team championships. This was, I have standards when it comes to Usos matches because I sincerely believe they're a fantastic, fantastic tag team. They're one of the best tag teams out there. This wasn't quite it. It didn't quite click for me. But I also feel that the right men won in kayfabe. However, you turn around and you're like, all right, well, Jimmy gets a DUI and, business as usual, and more than business as usual, we'll give you a championship. I don't know what's going on with that company. I don't know, man. Like, there was a time where WWE would like, no, we're sending you we'll pay for rehab. But again, I've talked about it, and I've talked about it before, and I don't want to hammer this too much either, but the first step is him deciding whether he wants to get help or not. That's up to him. There's nothing else. No one can force him into rehab. But if everyone's enabling him to continue this destructive behavior, because it's destructive behavior, whether he's an alcoholic or not, again, not my place to say or to judge, but he does have a problem. Just saying. People are enabling him to continue that kind of behavior. He's never going to change. Then we had the women's Money in the Bank match, which it wasn't great. It really wasn't. And as much as I'm torn on the finish, right? This is where I'm torn on the finish of this match. I'll tell you why. You have ladder spots and ladder matches have become progressively stupid, I find, over the years, where, we all have the visual of someone climbing very slowly when they could just go doop, 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 but no, they're waiting for the other guy to come in to do the spot thing, right? And then everyone's fighting on the ladders instead of just focusing. So to see Nikki Ash, sort of like, look at all the women fighting on the ladders, just like, she's like, you know what? I'm just gonna climb up and grab the briefcase and get the hell out of Dodge. I'm like, this is great. This is great. That's exactly, like, I'm like, this makes sense. She's the smartest one in the crew, right? But I'm like, it's a little anticlimactic. And it's a little anticlimactic, not gonna lie. I don't know. But I don't think it was a good Money in the Bank match. I don't. AJ Styles and Omos defeated the Viking Raiders to retain their tag team championships. My takeaway from this match here is how AJ Styles is over, because AJ Styles was pushed to be a big deal, so people see him as a big deal. So when he comes to the ring, he's a big deal. The Viking Raiders and Omos have not. So when the Viking Raiders and Omos hit the ring, the crowd was dead silent. They didn't care. That was my big takeaway. But when AJ Styles got in there, crowd came alive. When he wasn't in there, they were chanting for Styles. What are you gonna do? Push people. Like, actually give them pushes. Not make them look like geeks. They even took the time to remind us, hey, remember when the Viking Raiders played putt-putt golf and threw axes with the Street Profits? Wasn't that wacky? And like, no, stop. It was well worked, but no heat. Nothing to this match. Absolutely nothing. And too long. Want to say hello to Pratik Banhad. Hope I pronounced that right. Banjad. I massacred your last name, didn't I, Pratik? Apologies. But welcome to the chat. Now, Kofi Kingston losing to Bobby Lashley in the way he did is exactly the thing you had to do. And I don't know how controversial a take this is, because I don't, but I popped when this happened. And Kofi went at this smartly when he started off. He didn't rush in like he did against Brock, like he learned from that. Like, no, I'm going to try a different approach. But Lashley, here's the thing. Lashley is built to be this unstoppable force. They call him the Almighty. He's supposed to be, he's the champ. He's the top guy. So if he comes in and he crushes a former WWE champion on top of that, of course you're like, Jesus, this guy's unstoppable. He does 3 Dominators on Kofi to put him away. And the crowd was behind it. They were rallying behind Kofi. It was like, this ruled. This ruled. And then the end game is Lashley completely demolishing him and walking away. That's heat. You get a pure babyface in the ring, a guy that people absolutely adore, and you have your monster, unstoppable world champion destroy him. The audience turns on him. That's what you want. By God, man, that's what you want. Now, I chatted with people on the Discord about this, and the main complaint that I get is like, well, why did he lost to Kofi a couple of weeks ago and so on and so forth, and why all of a sudden, what are the matches leading up to this? What does it matter? What does it matter indeed? But this is the question that we have about WWE's weekly programming on a regular basis. Technically, the pay-per-view matches are your big-time things. This is where it matters. This is where we complain when we get fuck finishes, when we get when we get outside interference that makes no sense, when we look at this show belongs on a Raw. This was scheduled to be a WWE Championship match on a pay-per-view where the WWE Champion just completely obliterated his opposition. And that, friends and well-wishers and lovers, this is how you book a strong guy. And I am going to die on this hill. Bobby Lashley is the only guy since 2020 to have been expertly booked by WWE still to this day. From the moment that he started pairing with MVP, through the Hurt Business, through his US Championship run, through winning the title off of Miz and eventually then Drew McIntyre and hanging on to it, he has been booked like an unstoppable champion, like a guy who looks the part and acts the part. And then they come into this pay-per-view and they do exactly what you need. And on top of that, he's a heel. Who's going to be like, I love Bobby Lashley. People who don't like the New Day, sure. But Kofi, babyface, people were chanting for him. They wanted him to mount his big comeback. Christ, Kofi didn't even get a hope spot. But people wanted it. This was great. Now, the cynical part of me says, oh, well, they only did this because of the SummerSlam match with Goldberg. Sure. But Bobby Lashley still looks like $1 million, and it makes sense. Charlotte Flair defeated Rhea Ripley to become the Raw Women's Champion again. We want Becky chance throughout this match, and who doesn't want Becky at this point? This match began with a crowd that was not interested. They were dead to begin with. And it started little slow, little build, But by the end, they being Charlotte and Rhea, drew me into this match. I got interested. I bought what was going on. They got me, and they got the audience as well. They got an audience which was completely uninterested, who were chanting for Becky Lynch, and by the end, they were up on their feet. They were chanting for Rhea, and there was a lot of good stuff. It was brutal at some point here. Not saying this is the greatest match of all time, but Charlotte and Rhea have something. They have chemistry. They work well together. Never have Rhea and Asuka fight ever again. Charlotte and Rhea, there's something there. The takeaway from this match, whether you're like, oh, Charlotte Flair wins again, it's like, that's an entirely correct debate to have. But I think the takeaway from this match here is that two wrestlers won a crowd over by their wrestling skill, by putting on a wrestling match that compelled the audience into believing in it. Because they didn't at start. From the get-go, they didn't. Men's Money in the Bank was a fun one, I thought. Big E, of course, winning the briefcase here. I thought this was great. There's a pattern. There's a pattern in Money in the Bank matches where you put too many, where there's a lot of people in there, where you have 8 people. I think 8 people is too much for Money in the Bank. I think 6 is a good number. I think even an odd number is pretty fun. There was that year where they did 10 people at a WrestleMania, I think. That was just all over the place. You don't have time to care about people. And then what do? They being WWE, whoever produces the match, well, they managed to get one guy taken out. One year it's Sin Cara. This year it's Drew McIntyre. He gets taken out by Jinder Mahal and his dopes, and he gets dragged off. I thought he was kidnapped. He showed up the next night on Raw. I thought they had kidnapped him. I thought they tied him up. Why'd they drag him away? I don't understand. Ricochet did some beautiful spots here. Kevin Owens with the death spot. Of course, it's Kevin Owens who's going to risk his entire body. I'm so sick of the water pistols, the drip sticks, whatever they're called. I'm so sick of those. Nakamura gets sprayed by Morrison, and that knocks Nakamura out of the show for the rest of the match. I'm like, what? Why is everyone in WWE? Why are they? Why do they fall victim to water so easily? I don't understand it. But good for Big E. And I hope they do something. I hope they do something really, really exciting. I really do. And then the main event was Roman Reigns retaining his Universal Championship against Edge. I didn't like this match. I really don't. I understand the type of match that they were going for. It was pacing and the leading into the end. I know what they were going for, but this type of match only works if you have some emotional investment in these wrestlers, and I think the odd man out here is Edge. My emotional investment here was nothing. I was like, Roman Reigns beat this guy a couple of months ago, stacked him on top of another guy to beat him. Doesn't mean... I was like, I don't care about this match. I really don't. So what they were trying to do here, I understand what they were trying to do, but it didn't work because I think they overestimated how emotionally involved people are in these matches. I think WWE sees an entrance pop as, oh, people are interested in our wrestler. They really like him. But there's a difference between popping for an entrance and really being involved in a wrestler themselves. Anyway. There were shenanigans, the Usos, the Mysterios. Seth Rollins shows up and he brawls. Look, Roman retains. He grabs the microphone at the end, and I'm like, oh, he's cutting a promo. Cena's showing up. Who shows up? Cena shows up. And the place explodes. Now, this is a recent example of what a pop in wrestling is. A big pop. You know, when people say, oh, the big pop that Seth Rollins got. That, when John Cena showed up on that stage, that is a big pop. And it should be your go-to whenever you're arguing with someone who says they got the big pop. What a big pop. Was it really a big pop? Because what John Cena got was ridiculous. That, honestly, up there with the Stone Cold Steve Austin reactions, that was remarkable. That was like the Hardys coming back to WWE kind of pop. That's the kind of thing that gives everyone else on the card nightmares, because they're like, and I thought I was getting big reactions, you know?
Oh, yeah!
John Cena's back. It's big. It's a big deal, and I understand why WWE decided to bring him back as well, right? Makes sense. Why wouldn't it make sense to bring him back? Live crowds are back. You want to do some crowd pleasing things, and then on top of that, you want to make sure people actually buy tickets to SummerSlam, right? Get John Cena in here. Now, is that a testament to WWE's inability to build current stars that are as big as their old stars? Sure. John Cena is not coming back to wrestling. This is a Band-Aid, per usual, right? This is what WWE does when it used to bring back The Undertaker, when it does Legends Night, when it does all that kind of shit. Those are break glass in case of emergency situations. Why do you think that right now they're talking about booking The Rock for WrestleMania next year? Well, they have to because of The Rock's schedule, right? But they're doing it because they don't have anyone that big. They don't. And whose fault is that? Creative. Vince. Bruce. Kevin Dunn. Whoever you want to put the blame on. Don't know how to make stars this big anymore. They just don't. They really don't. Cyclops is better than Wolverine. Left us a super chat. Thank you very much. And good to see you and welcome to the chat as well. He says, Edge had no title claim. He lost and cried about it. Exactly. See? How do you get behind that? It's the most frustrating thing. Like that's really the most annoying thing. Is that creative in WWE will be like, okay, we're moving this guy out of the title picture. Now we're putting in this guy without any rhyme or reason. It's just like whoop. You're just switching people around. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. Let's see here. By the way, thank you everyone for being here. Lively crowd tonight. I'm having a good time. Hope you guys are having a good time. And thank you for being here. If you haven't already liked the video, share it out into the universe. Why don't we get more people in here? Just just throwing it out there. So on Monday Night Raw this week, it was announced that NXT champion Karrion Kross, excuse me. I'm still a little old school when it comes to the killer thing. It was announced that he was going to debut the NXT champion Karrion Kross on Monday Night Raw. He had shown up on Main Event a couple of weeks ago, probably doing some screen tests, whatever the fuck. And he shows up. No reaction. There's no Scarlett, so they're not doing the whole entrance. He comes in. His opponent, Jeff Hardy, who comes out to no more words. Big reaction from the crowd. Jeff is beaming. He's so happy. Like, he's legitimately happy. And he comes to the ring and he beats Karrion Kross, pinning his shoulders, putting his legs up on the second rope. Beats your NXT champion 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. Now, let's break this down a little bit. Jeff Hardy defeating Karrion Kross on the first Raw with a full audience back was absolutely the right call. Let me rephrase that. Jeff Hardy coming out to win a match on the first Monday Night Raw in front of a full capacity audience back was the right call. Having him win, the right call. Having him win against Karrion Kross, that's another discussion, which we're going to have right now. Because Jeff winning, he's the baby face, and you can still see in the reaction, people love the guy. So why just, of course you want him to go over. You don't want the opposite to happen. So why specifically book Karrion Kross, who's making his debut and who is your third brand's champion, to lose like under 4 minutes to Jeff Hardy? Now, you can continue. You could absolutely 100% say, hey, well, Jeff Hardy is he's a vet, he's a legend, he should be beating guys, and I agree. I agree with everything you just said. So my question still remains is why book a champion? You could have literally put anyone else in that match than Karrion Kross. You could have put anyone and you would have got the same result. And we wouldn't be here sitting around going, what a shit decision. What the fuck is going on with NXT? Because this opens up a whole other can of worms. There you go. Joe, good to see you. Joe Poulin, welcome to the chat. So, Kross is a guy who in NXT is super protected. If you shall recall, at the last pay-per-view, he defeated all of his contenders. Finn Balor, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Santos Escobar, Oney Lorcan, they all lost. Kyle O'Reilly, all lost to Killer Kross. Not all at TakeOver, but you know that what I'm saying is that he beat all the guys. These are all top guys in NXT. These are all guys that you're supposed to be like, oh yeah, okay. The piss decision is to have this happen at the expense of your NXT champion that's making his debut on Raw. This literally, like I said, could have been absolutely anyone. And then people in WWE will and defenders will then come and say, but wins and losses don't matter. But they do. And then you have Pete Rosenberg, my God, going on Twitter and stating exactly that. Wins and losses don't matter. It's all about the stories. The stories. The stories. Because any other television show or movie or even a fucking stand-up comedian who knows who's worth his weight or her weight will be able to tell more compelling stories than what WWE does. Wins and losses always should matter in a pro wrestling match, because otherwise, why are you watching? Why are you watching wrestling? For the story. The story is always about who's going to win in the end, who's going to lose in the end. That's always what it's about. That's why wins and losses matter, people. But for some reason, I have people telling me, oh, but sometimes a loss will help propel a story, so it's not always about winning, but it's about, yes, you just said it yourself. Sometimes the loss will help propel a story. So wins and losses are what matters. That's your story. They help propel stories. My point is that stories are at the service of win-loss records. It's not the other way around. And it's especially, it doesn't exist if you're like, wins and losses never matter. One of the reasons that the Alexa Bliss stuff is so mystifying is because there is no rhyme or reason as to why are these people fighting, what's the significance of a W or an L here? Because none of it matters. Everything seems to be above it. Even in the old school stories where you'd have like where you'd have a guy, he stole my jacket. I'm gonna come back to you and I'm gonna get my jacket. I'm gonna meet you in the ring, and when I beat you, I'm gonna take my jacket back. When I beat you, I'll get my jacket back. But the win and the loss matters. I don't know why it's so hard for people to wrap their mind around it. There is no wrestling story if you don't get an ending, a conclusion in a match where something matters, because the wins and losses are at the base of everything. Character work, angles, stories, they all serve to create excitement and emotional investment in a match or a show or a card, whatever. But let's say a match. Let's keep it simple for this, for the purpose of this example. They all serve the match, and the match has an outcome, which is a W or an L, and that's what your story should always lead to. If it leads to anything else, you're doing it wrong and you're overthinking it. It's so simple. And the people who come into my mentions on Twitter and try to defend the stories, they always expose themselves because it's like this wins and losses don't matter because in the story, sometimes a win can be bad for someone too. And I'm like, you just said it. There you go. Even in your example, you're saying the W has a purpose because wins and losses matter. There's no other way to put it. Karrion Kross comes out, he loses, he looks like a goof. He goes back to NXT, we get a report. That they had to reshoot a thing because the audience was chanting for Jeff Hardy. And I'm like, of course they are, because Jeff Hardy, the beloved babyface, pinned the guy who is a heel, so he goes on to another show. The people watch the other show and they're like, Hardy, because they like Jeff Hardy, you're the heel, and they want to stick it to you. It's just that simple. Yeah. It's the basic reaction. But then WWE decide to reshoot it because, we can't have the Hardy reactions. Aren't they glad? They're so happy that live crowds are back. They're back to editing out the crowds whenever they can. They're sweetening the sound whenever they can, lowering the volume at the boos, and it's ridiculous. They spend months telling us we're excited to have you back. They do video packages saying we're excited to have you back, audience. And what do? They edit you out when you start going off script. naughty audience. No, 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 no. My God, we were much better served when all we had to do was push the heat button. Right, Bruce at Gorilla. It was a big pop, big pop. Doesn't even reward they don't reward their audience for paying attention to the fucking product. The NXT crowd watched Raw the night before. They're coming in to watch the show the next night. Live. And they're like, no, we can't put this in. And they're paying attention. They're doing what you should want your audience to do, but you're not rewarding them. You're punishing them for doing it. And you're punishing them for doing exactly what a wrestling audience should do, which is chant the babyface's name to the heel. And if you didn't want that overlap, that crossover, you shouldn't have booked it in the first place, you dummies. You absolute dummies. It's mind-boggling. Anakin JMT left us a super chat. Thank you very much. He says, look how previous NXT champions were treated. Yeah, when Kevin Owens, right? Fucking pins John Cena. Adam Cole at Survivor Series has one of the best matches up on main. It's just fantastic stuff. And Killer Kross comes up and then the reports like, oh, Vince is trying to send a message that NXT is still developmental. It's like, send a message? Is that why they trot out Keith Lee in front of his hometown crowd and they have him lose? Is that why? Because Vince is flexing? Needs to teach a lesson to these kids? How is that even in the case of Keith Lee? Why wouldn't you give the hometown crowd a win? Let them have a good feel-good moment. Pump them up for the next match. Get them excited. Send them home happy. Whatever. No. We got to get good heat here. It's bananas. I don't understand it. Fucking right now, there's... And I'm not going to take credit for this. I'm going to give credit again to Joe Lanza over at Voices of Wrestling. But again, he has the perfect take. There's more synergy between New Japan, AEW, and Impact Wrestling than there is between WWE and NXT. And they're the same fucking company. And I'm not talking about Goldberg. I'm not talking about Goldberg. You guys know how I feel about it. You know, I'm retreading the same water over and over again, and we have much more interesting things to talk about than Bill Goldberg hitting the ring, laughing in Bobby Lashley's face, looking like he's a guy who's about to say, "Get off my lawn." The match is going to be a disaster at SummerSlam. But you know what the thing here is? And I'm not going to talk about Goldberg. I'm going to talk about Vince McMahon here. And I want to say hi to Pluggo before I forget. How you doing, Pluggo? Welcome to the chat. And Joseph Morin, good to see you. Goldberg, Vince, 76-year-old Vince looks at 54-year-old Bill Goldberg, looks at his physique and is like, he's a mark. We know Vince is a body mark. So he looks at Goldberg in his 50s looking the way he does and he says, "God damn, pal." And he puts him on the That's why he signs the contract with him, because he's a mark for that kind of physique on an old guy, because he's an old guy too. He's like, "Look at us old guys. We're showing these young guys." Whatever poison goes on in his brain. And he's like, "We're going to trickle this down onto my show." It's not a report, it's speculation. again, I'll say this time and time again, okay? Time and time again. Bill Goldberg will always be a draw. At his age, his physique looks fantastic. He's going to be ready, physically ready for his match at SummerSlam. But I'll be goddamned if he's anything else but an attraction. That's all he is. All he is. There's so much more we could be talking about WWE, but we're already 90 minutes into this. AEW Dynamite, I thought was an okay show. But here's the thing. It's like, I think I'm realizing just how starved I was for the sound of a live crowd being back. Because I think Dynamite was bookended with some good to great matches and fantastic angles. I thought everything in between was, it was, fine. Overall, it was all right. But the crowd, I think it's the crowd that's making these shows feel special. It's the crowd that's showing us who we need to cheer for and who are the people that we should be getting behind. It's good shit. Don't get me wrong. And it legitimately enhanced my enjoyment of the show. Because there's stuff here that I'm like, this is all right. But the crowd reactions and the angles that they were running. Let's start. I'm not going to go through everything, but I do want to talk about Lance Archer versus Jon Moxley, because that fucking ruled. Amazing. They go straight at it immediately. Archer comes to, first of all, I'm going to say it again. All of you weirdos who said that Wild Thing was a bad entrance theme, I hope week after week the audience keeps proving you wrong. Lance Archer hits the ring he's bringing 2 kendo sticks. He's ready to go. He hits the ring. Moxley's all over him before the bell rings. God, I love that. I love it. That's what it's supposed to be. It's a fight. It's a no disqualifications match. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Get a senton cannonball off the apron. Kendo stick fight. They fight into the audience. Paradigm shift on the exposed floor, because Moxley's just, not Moxley, but Archer's tearing up the padding on the floor. We get forks. Archer gets Pillmanized. Mox gets chokeslammed on upright chairs, back to back. Barbed wire planks on top of tables. And it's Archer who chokeslams Mox off the apron, through the tables. Mox is in the barbed wire. Lance Archer is your new IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion. This match ruled. On a North American wrestling program, AEW, a New Japan title was defended. We've seen it before, but also changed hands. In Lance Archer's home, in front of his home crowd, people went berserk. And why wouldn't you do that more often? Why would you not do that when you see the type of reaction it creates? Your product looks hot then. It's like, oh, this, and then it makes Archer look important. Archer's like, then it's like no one looks at this and says, wow, Lance Archer, so. No, everyone's hype. There's so many reasons why I love this. Because of the connection to all the way back in fucking 2000 at Wrestle Kingdom, almost 2 years ago at this point, where they had their first Texas deathmatch match, where Jon Moxley won the U.S. title off of Lance Archer in Tokyo. And they bring it back here. They cycle a full year. And who's the guy who takes it back? Lance Archer. He gets his win back over Moxley. It's 50-50 booking, Warren. Fuck you, 50-50 booking. Jon Moxley in 2021 has now lost 3 times to 3 different people. Only 3 times. He's lost to Kenny Omega, to Josh Barnett, the Bloodsport event, and now Lance Archer. That's not 50-50 booking. That is Lance Archer getting a win over a super protected guy. That is different. That's not... Guys change. And you know what? If they want to... This is a story that they can go back to at any moment. I've talked about this before. I love the idea of a wrestler having another wrestler's number, or having like this back and forth, whatever you want to, like that's one of the reasons I enjoyed the Charlotte and Sasha stuff so much when they were passing the title back and forth between them, because I'm like, this is cool. It's like they're both equal. If they want to come back in years with this, in another 18 months, and Mox is like, hey, Lance, let's do it again. And then Moxley wins. It's like, boop, 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 boop. Like it continues to escalate then. If you run it every week, people get bored. If you run it every 4 months, people get bored. If you do it this way, it's great. This is Lance Archer, legit. This was the biggest moment of his career. Legitimately. This is a guy 5 years ago had surgery on his back and technically should never have returned. But he had the surgery. He rehabbed to come back. He headed to New Japan. Teamed up into Suzuki-gun. World Tag League with Minoru. Had Killer Death Squad with Davey Boy Smith Jr. Then DBS is like, no, I'm done. I'm done with New Japan. This was all part. And then Lance Archer comes back as a singles guy and has that fantastic match against Will Ospreay at the opening of the G1, where he fucking beats Will Ospreay when the G1 opened in North America and in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. I can't quite remember the location, but I remember all that stuff. It was a great match, and that was the moment where Lance Archer's career resurged. That's where it started again, and now we're almost 2 years later after winning the title, and he's back in front of his home crowd, winning against uber protected megastar Jon Moxley, winning a match in front of his home crowd, and gains back a title that he lost to that guy. How is that not the biggest moment of that guy's career? Right there. Makes it special. And you know what? He goes back and he hugs Tony Khan or whoever booked the match. And he's like, this is a special moment for me. Thank you, boss. So on top of that, you add a little loyalty, right? Tony Khan is like, he does this, and Lance Archer feels this much more a little appreciative of working for AEW, right? Right. Keep the morale up. Make your people happy. Not just the people in the audience. It's important that your paying customers be happy, sure. But your guys and gals working, you got to keep those people happy too. And it's wild. This is what's wild to me. It's wild that I'm sitting here breaking this down while it sounds so obvious. But we're in a period of wrestling where for the past 2 decades, this type of obvious type of booking where it's like, this seems to be the sensible decision, has always been countered by some galaxy-brained idea that's overthinking wrestling booking. And we're like, no, the better story here is for Moxley to put Lance out with 4 paradigm shifts. That way Lance still looks strong and sometimes wrestling booking is not rocket science. I'm not saying it's easy, because there are lots of components that go into it, but sometimes the most obvious outcome isn't necessarily the one that you should not go with. And the thing here, and I was watching this match, and I was looking at the match, and I was like, at some point I'm realizing, I'm like, Lance Archer's fighting from beneath. And I was watching with Kristen, and Kristen was like, John looks like the heel here. I'm like, for sure, Lance Archer's fighting from beneath. They're giving him hope spots. And I'm like, Christ, Archer's going to do it, isn't he? It was brilliantly booked. Moxley dominated this match, and he was the asshole. He pulled out the fork. He was the jerk in the match. It was such a great main event. Great main event. Hikuleo at the end from the Bullet Club. Son of Meng. Brothers with Tama Tonga and Tongaloa was in the audience to challenge the winner. It's good stuff. Hey, William Davis, good to see you. Hikuleo's a tall guy. Like, I knew he was a tall guy, right? I've seen him at New Japan Strong. He's a tall dude, right? But you know, there's a lot of junior heavyweights in New Japan Strong as well. So when you see Hikuleo with, you know, some of the smaller guys, you're like, well, the smaller guys. But Lance Archer is a beast. He's a tall dude too, and they're nose to nose, and you're like, Jesus, Hikuleo's bigger than the guy. And Hikuleo's gonna have his big match, his big moment. It's good stuff. Sometimes pro wrestling ain't hard, guys. It really isn't. The other big match on the card was Britt Baker successfully defending the AEW World Women's Championship against Nyla Rose. I'm going to tell you, I thought this match was extreme. It wasn't bad, but I wouldn't call it good. I think it was fine. I think they worked hard. I think there was a compelling story that surrounded it all to make it worthwhile, to get people invested. I thought there were some, you know, and the proof of that were the near falls, right? The towards the end. I thought that was proof of that. But I didn't think this was Nyla's best outing. She's had much better matches than this. I don't think this was Britt's shining hour either. I'm glad that this is out of the way, because I wasn't really into the feud either. And now that Thunder Rosa is officially signed, this has to be what they move to, right? For All Out. They have to go with Rosa Britt too, right? They have to. And we're going to get a much more superior match out of Britt Baker here than with Nyla. And I think that's I think that's your, right now in AEW, that's the only money match for the women's division right now. It's the only one. They don't have anyone else ready. They really don't. Chris Statlander, not yet. Not yet. And I'd even go as far as to say that my concern that I have at this point, as great Britt is she, she's a heel, but she's getting the cheers. Like, she's literally in Adam Cole's wheelhouse, And so if she goes to fight someone like Chris Statlander, who is an absolute babyface, like I think you need a good separation. You need a proper separation between the two here, between heel and babyface. And I think this is something that we might be able to reach with Thunder Rosa, because Thunder Rosa is super over as well. I think if Britt just continues being a nasty, she has to do something absolutely deplorable to Thunder Rosa to drive this home, because I think she was a little too cute with Nyla. I really think she was a little too cute with Nyla Rose. But if she drives home the heel stuff with Rosa, then we can eventually move on to Statlander. But it's a situation that is going to work if Statlander is playing opposite a despicable heel, which I'm convinced that Britt Baker is able to do. She's done it. It's just she's so good at it, people love her for it. That's the deal we're in right now. But yeah, that match wasn't it. We had Darby Allin versus Wheeler Yuta. Chat, let me know, over under, how many weeks before AEW signs Wheeler Yuta? Over under 3 weeks. Wheeler Yuta, who has been on Dynamite over the past 2 weeks, who's been associated with one of the hottest acts in the company, being the Best Friends, Orange Cassidy. I think our boy Wheeler here is on the cusp of being signed. They clearly love him, and he's a great wrestler. It's not often that I pop at an octopus hold, but he just slid one on Darby that looked effortless, and he looked like he was floating. It was amazing. Yeah, they're not gonna sit on Wheeler Yuta. But the story, of course, of this match is the confrontation between Orange Cassidy and Sting on the outside. Where it's like where they come face to face. Orange Cassidy does this, right? The pockets thing. And then he gives Sting a shin kick. Sting, unimpressed, gives his own Orange Cassidy-like shin kick. And they trade the shin kicks, to a massive reaction from the crowd. And then they do the low kick where they both connect, to just a great reaction from the crowd. And then Sting does his chest pumping thing, but effortless, without any energy to it, like Orange Cassidy would do it. Big pop from your boy. Oh, I gotta lie. That fun. The cherry on top was Darby Allin, who was in the ring, who had just like regained his senses or whatever, and he leans over the top rope and he's looking at Cassidy and Sting doing this, and he's like, "What are you doing?" Like literally, it looked like, "Dad, you're embarrassing me." I love that shit. I thought it was great. It works because two guys that are super over in the company. Why wouldn't you do that? Fun little moment for the audience. I love it. And you got to do things like that for your audience. You're doing a live show. Dude, what I've realized with the return of live crowds is that AEW still puts on a live show for a crowd that will also be on television. Whereas WWE is basically shooting a television show in front of a live studio audience. I think you get the difference, right? Like taping a sitcom, the sitcom will keep going whether the audience reacts or not. They'll keep doing it, right? But AEW actually incorporates the live crowd as an element of the show, which is what we've all been saying since crowds have been gone, right? I love it. I thought it was fun. And then we had the first of Jericho's labors, which was Sean Spears, the chairman. I saw a tweet today that made me laugh. Someone should tell Sean Spears that a chair is not a personality. Come on, it's a good one. I laughed. The stipulation here was that you couldn't use... Sean Spears could use chairs. Jericho could not. Jericho managed to win nonetheless, despite shenanigans with Tully Blanchard. Sammy Guevara ran in to get rid of Tully. Jericho get kicked out of the C4, which is notable. Judas Effect puts him away. MJF comes out and says, your labors are not done. Next week, you are going to be facing a man who has stabbed a man in the jugular. A man who has robbed the bank. And I'm like, no, I'm not Nick Gage. And as I'm saying that, he's like, Nick Gage. Nick Gage comes out. Big reaction. And I'm like, Jericho's doomed. Jericho. Nice. Rest in peace, Jericho. I think I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago. Right? I was like, AEW is going to have... AEW is going to bring Nick Gage on at some point because Nick Gage he's very popular right now.
Yeah.
He's on an uptick with the documentary, all that stuff. Huge pop. It was fantastic stuff. And again, proof that AEW fans are a little more connected to what's happening in, the outside world of wrestling as opposed to WWE fans who have been conditioned to being in a bubble. I'm not necessarily blaming them. That's what happens when you're conditioned into a certain thing, to believe that there's nothing that happens outside of your bubble. That's not a crack. Nick Gage is going to be on AEW next week and he's going to bring pizza cutters and it's a no disqualifications match. It's going to be awful. And that rules. Jericho's coming back as the Painmaker, and I mean that's the least frightening thing. Like the Painmaker thing was always a little corny. And I'm like, look, Nick Gage is the real deal, and the Painkiller thing is, it's a little dopey, Well, we'll see what happens next week, but I'll tell you one thing. I'm excited to see what they're going to do moving on with these labors. Because what I was fully expecting, legitimately, was, okay, Jericho's going to go through the Pinnacle guys, right? That's what I thought was going to happen. Oh, he's going to fight Wardlow in a strap match. And, okay, AEW is mixing this up. This is really interesting. I thought now I'm super excited to see how these labors of Jericho are going to go, because they're bringing Nick Gage in next week, and good for him, good for the guy. He deserves this kind of attention. He deserves that kind of payday. I don't know. I would suspect that it's going to be a one-shot deal. That would be my suspicion. Do you think the TNT executives were like, they misheard when Tony Khan told them we're having Nick Gage come on? Oh, Academy Award winner. That's wow. And he's gonna wrestle. That's gonna do big numbers. I'm pretty sure they didn't show any tape of Nick Gage to the TNT executives. It's going to be a big Dynamite next week. I'm excited. Anakin JMT left us a super chat. Thank you very much. He says, love Jericho dusting out old gimmicks for labors. Sure. Absolutely. Hey, you know, if his labor's also, look, here's something that we could think about. What if, because he's hinted at this, if he can't beat MJF, then maybe he shouldn't be wrestling anymore. Maybe this is a signal for his retirement. Because if I'm booking in AEW, there's no fucking way Chris Jericho is beating MJF at All Out. MJF has to be the winner, right? He has to be the guy. So what if through these labors, Chris Jericho sort of relives his old personas, old gimmicks, you know, the scarf, Silent Jericho, Y2J with the ponytail. What if he just brings out, you know, the blinking jacket? What if he brings back just these elements? And what we're actually looking at is a Chris Jericho farewell tour, but we just don't know it. Especially if they start bringing in guys from the outside that he works with, that he sort of gives a bit of a rub before he leaves. Not implausible, if you ask me. A couple of minutes. Okay, look. I want to talk about New Japan real quick before we wrap this up. Because there's stuff happening in New Japan. Kota Ibushi was pulled from more New Japan shows. He's suffering from pneumonia, aspiration pneumonia. He will miss the next 3 New Japan shows. The New Japan website reported that in order for him to make a full in-ring recovery, he'll miss the 22nd, 23rd, and 24 shows. There will be a final decision that will be made in regards to his appearance at Wrestle Grand Slam against where he's supposed to face our boy Shingo Takagi for the world title. Just snake bitten is New Japan these days. But man, I felt something was up with Kota Ibushi. There was something wrong. Because he had missed shows before that. They said, oh, because of the vaccine. And I was like, no, something's up. There's something not great happening right now. So it sucks, but I hope he gets better. Pneumonia is no laughing matter. It's treatable, but it can also be quite serious. The important thing is that he stays on top of things. In the meantime, you know, Shingo's gonna go keep on his tour of beating the shit out of the lower card. Just it's weird. But Hiromu Takahashi in some good news, because we're allowed some good news when it comes to New Japan as well. Hiromu Takahashi, excuse me. Has been cleared to return for in-ring action. Hiromu himself tweeted today that a doctor had cleared him and he's ready to return to the ring after being sidelined with a torn pectoral muscle. Fantastic news. I think the junior division needs him desperately, and of course, with all these forbidden doors opened up, it just adds on to the magnificence of it all. And the final matches heading into the Wrestle Grand Slam show that happens this weekend are occurring. They're taking place. But just a quick preview of Wrestle Grand Slam before we sign off here. Where the show is happening, of course, this weekend, July 25th. We are going to have a New Japan Ranbo. It's going to come back for the and it's going to be for the King of Pro Wrestling 2021 trophy. The gimmick here is that handcuffs are allowed. That's what the people voted on. Man, I don't know how. I mean, I thought the King of Pro Wrestling thing was cute at first. Now it kind of grinds me, and I think it's kind of cringe, and it sucks because it's Yano. Yano's like the guy carrying this load, and it's a load is what it is. Anyway. The IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles are going to be on the line as Rocky Romero and Taguchi are going to be facing the champions Taiji Ishimori and El Fantasma of Bullet Club. This is a fresh match. What can you... I got nothing to say. Interesting. It's a fresh match. Good to see Taguchi back in the swing of things, too. The IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship will also be on the line as El Desperado is going to defend against Robbie Eagles. Again, I sort of question Robbie Eagles coming in out of nowhere to challenge El Desperado, on screen, and like there's no build here, but fresh match. And the junior division right now is depleted. So I'm all for this. This should actually rock. I think this will be very, very good. It should be good. And it's not the main event, so they're not going to go 35 minutes for a fucking junior match. Jeff Cobb is going to take on Kazuchika Okada. Exciting. That should be a blast. If we get Okada in a good beat, in a good mood, this should be a lot of fun. We're going to get the IWGP Tag Team Championships, Tetsuya Naito and Sanada, the champions, defending against the Dangerous Tekkers in a rematch from when they lost the titles just like 10 days ago. I couldn't care less about this, not gonna lie. But you guys know how I feel about the tag divisions in New Japan. And the main event, fingers crossed, Shingo versus Kota Ibushi. I mean, this is a match that should have happened a month ago, 90 days ago, not 60 days ago or something. But Kota's been sidelined, there's been issues. Will it happen? Like this is like they're stringing us along for this one. Ibushi's going to try and get his title back. Shingo's not going to let that happen. That's my prediction. There's no way in hell Shingo's dropping it so soon. I think Shingo hangs on to it until Ospreay comes back. They got to continue that. They got to circle back to Shingo and Ospreay, which is a fantastic feud with great history. Shingo drops it to Ospreay. Shingo eventually comes back to get it from Ospreay, which is what should have happened in the first place. But life happens. Life happens. Just like the end of the weekly wrestling inspection happened. Well, this was a fantastic show. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of great stuff to talk about this week. When wrestling is exciting, it's so much fun to talk about. It really, really is. And I'm glad you guys stuck around to chat with me to the very bitter end. Hey, if you're still here and you haven't given the video a thumbs up, please do. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight, for participating in the chat. Thank you everyone who donated a super chat as well. Super appreciative. If you're not already a member, consider becoming a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, because in a few minutes, we're going to go talk more about CM Punk and Daniel Bryan between us members. You come in, we chat, it's super interactive, we take Discord calls. It's a good time. But it's also a good time having you hang around here on your Thursday evenings. I'm always humbled and always appreciative of everyone who shows up and takes time out of their day to come and just listen to me ramble. I really appreciate it. On that note, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you very much for being here, and we'll see you next time.